This is Shannon Dawson, who's the inside receiver coach for West Virginia. And Coach, you're now just a few days away from the game. What is left to do for your team to get ready for the Discover Orange Bowl?
Get them to the game. That's it. That's all that's left to do. We're going to do a quick little practice today, a little walkthrough tomorrow, and if we can get them to the game with nobody else getting hurt, we'll be blessed.
All right, very good. All right. As I mentioned, the microphone's in the room. Just raise your hand. They'll bring the microphone over to you, and we will go ahead and get started. All right, Coach, you're clear to go home. No, I'm kidding.
I was about to say, that was easy. It's going to be a lot easier than I thought.
We'll go right here. Oh, no, I got an hour and a half of questions right here, so we're going whether you like it or not. Right.
Shannon, just in terms of game philosophy, what you see out of Clemson defensively, some of the things that they do well that maybe you can try to exploit, or things they don't do well.
Well, I mean, they're athletic and they're fast. I think we've played some pretty good defenses as the year goes on this year, but their size, their DBs are probably a little bigger than some of the guys we played. I mean, probably a lot like LSU's were, bigger guys, but just their athletic ability. They run around. Their D-line's athletic. It's not like they try to fool you or anything. They're just going to line up and try to hit you in the mouth. So hopefully we can get somebody open every now and again.
All the way in the front row to the right.
With Stedman and Tavon, a lot of people thought they'd have the capability for 1,000-yard seasons. From your vantage point, what do you think they did best in order to reach that potential this year?
I just kept playing. I mean, the thing about receivers, and you can watch the news and everything, receivers want the ball. And so, and that's fine. You get a little bit down if you don't get the ball or whatever, but that's the one thing we keep telling them. You just got to continue playing and being modest, The game's going to come to you, don't press. And I think that's one thing they've done a good job of is just being happy when the other guy gets the balls and blocking. They're really a selfless group. Stedman does a one heck of a job blocking, and Tavon, for the size, he does a good job blocking too. And that's the one thing with the whole group. If you're going to have receivers to get those number of yards and everything, it's got to be a selfless group. They got to block and do the things that everybody else does, and that's one thing they've done a great job of.
Front row here.
Shannon, with the breaks in practice that you've had since the end of the season, how has that affected the offense's timing? And after a few days off, how long does it take for you and the receivers to get it back?
I'll tell you that at halftime on the fourth. I don't know. There's been times where we've had weeks off in the past and we've came back and played great. There's been times where we had weeks off and came back and we couldn't complete a ball. And if I had the answer to that, I'd put it in a bottle and sell it to every coach in America. But I don't know. Right now it's kind of hard to tell because we're not doing – we're with the limited number of kids we have, we're just trying to stay healthy for the game. And so we're not really taking a lot of reps versus our defense, stuff that we've done throughout the course of the year. And so to answer that question, when the bullets start flying on the fourth, and then I think everybody in this room will be able to tell,
At the start of the season, you said you were hoping to develop 8 players in the rotation. Obviously, you didn't get to that level because of injuries and other things. How much has that affected your practice schedule and then in the games, the things that you were trying to do?
It affects us in a sense that the way we organize practice, receivers are running and catching balls continuously throughout the course of the practice. And so you'd really like to have at least 3, ideally 4 at each position just so they don't die. And we've had 2. We've had 2 at each position. And if you just do the math, that doubles their reps at practice. And so we've had to do a really good job of just slowing down periods and just keeping in mind, and just conversation. I just talked to Tavon and talked to those guys and just, are your legs tired? They're honest. I can tell when their legs are tired. So, you just got to do a good job of gauging that. But, with the limited number of kids we have, it just hurts the reps at practice more than anything.
Coach Jeff Jenkins from Metro News. I know because of the injuries, you haven't been able to do a lot of live stuff. Is that more of a concern, like tackling, full tackling? Is that more of a concern offensively or defensively, or offensively? How do you react if you don't do a lot of tackling?
We don't do any tackling from day one, and so I don't know many programs that do anymore. To be honest with you, none that I've ever coached on have ever done any live tackling unless it's like a scrimmage situation, and we don't do a lot of those either. And so, you know, to be honest with you, I mean, that's probably more of a defensive question than anything because, you know, ultimately in the game you got to get the guy on the ground. You don't thud him up, which is what we do in practice. You just kind of collide with him and let him go. And so, but I don't think it's been a problem with us this year. I mean, it seems to me, I mean, I'm not sitting there watching game film of our defense or anything, but I mean, it seems to me we've been tackling pretty good. But, and that's a question that you go in and out of every season. I mean, is it beneficial? Is it not beneficial? I've always leaned towards keeping kids healthy. You know, if you get them to the game healthy, you have a better chance of winning than if you don't. I mean, that's, you know, pretty simple.
Coach Connor,
Go ahead.
Coach Holgerson said yesterday that some kids during bowl practices get better, and Connor Aurelia had done that, and unfortunately he had the accident. Can you tell how he had kind of gotten better during the bowl practices?
He was getting a lot more reps, you know, and that's one thing. I mean, Connor's a great kid. His work ethic is unbelievable. He was getting reps due to the fact that, you know, Tyler's been hurt. We've had some other kids hurt. And so with those reps and his work ethic, he has been improving. I mean, it's unfortunate because the kid's sitting in a situation as a true freshman that he'd probably get some reps in the game and an Orange Bowl game. And so, you know, unfortunate for him. But he's got a long career. He's, you know, the injuries he's got, I mean, he's gonna heal up, so he'll be fine.
All the way in the back of the room to the left.
Coach, a lot of times in bowl games with the time off, players come off during the game with cramps or various injuries because they've had so much time away from the game. What do you or some of the strength and conditioning coaches tell or stress to the players to avoid potential injuries or cramps like that?
I don't know. I mean, the humidity is a little different down here. As far as cramps go, is that what you were asking?
Yeah.
I mean, cramps are really not that big of a deal. I mean, they get over with pretty quick. I mean, you just gotta, I mean, I'm not a trainer or a nutritionist expert or anything like that, but, you know, this stuff right here in this bottle helps out with cramps from what I've been told. And so we just tell them to keep hydrated, you know. I mean, I think our first practice down here was a little bit taxing based on the fact that there's a lot more water in the air that we're sucking in, you know. And so they got tired and, you know, so you got to get acclimated to it. I think that's why people, when you play on trips like this, I mean, you at least get 5 or 6 practices there so you kind of get acclimated to it. But cramps haven't been a problem for us since we've been here. It hadn't been a problem all year, so I don't foresee that being a problem.
I'm going to bring the microphone to the second row here on the left.
Shannon, your top guys, you know, Bailey, Austin, those people, are they better than you thought they'd be when you first got a hold of them, you know, a year ago, that sort of thing?
I mean, I think you can tell pretty quick that they're special players. You never know how a kid's attitude is going to be, and I think that's the most important thing. I mean, a lot of times when you're dealing with kids that have been good their whole life, then they have a little bit of sense of entitlement to them, and that's one thing as coaches. I mean, you got to either get it out of them or hope and pray that they don't have it, you know. And so that's one thing that I would say that I've been more surprised with more than their ability. I mean, I could tell they had ability on day one, but I was pleased with the fact that they're selfless. I was pleased with the fact that they continue to go out and work every day, just like they're trying to prove themselves. And so that's the best part about those guys.
Shannon, for guys like Gino and Stedman, who obviously go way back through high school, I mean, how much does that off-the-field relationship, you know, turn into their chemistry on the field?
No, I think it has a lot to do with it. I mean, those guys, their chemistry and just being on the same page, you know, it's a lot to say, even just catching balls from the same guy for how many, I mean, I don't even know how many years they've been catching balls from each other, 10 years maybe. But those guys have an unbelievable rapport out there, and their chemistry is great, and I think that has a lot to do with their success, no doubt. It's all about reps when you get down to it, and they've had a lot of reps together.
Shannon, you seem to, during the course of the season, keep your receivers kind of grounded. Even when they had great games, you found something to criticize them for.
Dana does that to me, too.
Yeah. At the end of the day now, I mean, are you ready to say that they've had a pretty good year, or do you still see a lot of room for improvement, or at least want to convey to them that they still have a lot of room for improvement?
I look at it more of as a unit. You know, I mean, I think as a unit we have improving to do, especially in throwing the ball down the field and just as a whole unit, you know, and the whole offensive perspective of it. But those guys, I mean, yeah, I mean, they had a great year. I mean, I know what you're talking about. I know a couple of those weeks they had really good games. It's not like I'm a psychic or anything, but I remember distinctly before one game, they had a great week, you know, and I was trying to keep them grounded or whatever, and we ended up getting beat. Do you remember that week? I remember that week. And so I think that, you know, the bottom line is, I mean, you got to forget about the game before. You got to forget about the play before. I mean, I've always had the motto of play the next play regardless of whether it's a great play or a bad play. You got to have short-term memory, and that's the one thing. I mean, I don't, you know, all that, you know, praise and everything. I mean, I tell them I care about them and tell them they had a great game all the time. And so, but the bottom line is they have to do a good job of just living the next play and playing in the present. You know, don't really get too caught up in what happened last week or what happened last play. And I think your greater players tend to do that.
Any more questions for Coach Dawson? And front row all to the left.
Shannon, you've known Dana for quite some time, but there's been a long gap in between when you played for him and then coaching with him now. How did you guys stay so close those years and to the point where you know his offense very well and it's been a pretty smooth transition?
Well, for some reason we hit it off right at the beginning, and I don't know what that is, and maybe we have similar personalities. I don't really know. But, you know, my relationship with him was the reason I got into coaching. And so, and I didn't want to coach in any other offense than the one I played in because that was fun for me. And so just when I graduated college, he helped me get on with a coach, Coach Hal Mummy, and just stayed in contact. And I went and visited him out at Texas Tech a lot. And like I said, I mean, you know, the only reason I got into coaching was because when I played for him, I had fun. You know, and I had fun in the offense. Practice was fun. The way it was structured was fun. It was laid back. And so with that being the case, I chose to do that from that point. And so, and then, you know, didn't just me making an effort to stay in contact and go visit throughout the course of the year, just wanting to learn more about the offense, basically, is what it was.
Rebecca, we can go right in the middle in the very back row.
Shannon, can you explain or give the story on the shirts that a lot of the coaches have been wearing, the insanity, why insanity is there in front of play hard, play fast, play, what's the third one?
Yeah, well, I hadn't really paid too much attention to it, to be honest with you, but I just think that, I mean, I don't really know, to answer your question, I don't know. I wear the shirt like everybody else does, but I wear a lot of shirts where I don't know what the hell they mean, you know? And so, but, you know, in my opinion, I just think it has to do with just being, you know, a little bit crazy. You know, to play this game and to play it the right way, the little reckless abandonment type deal, you know, you got to be a little bit insane. You know, you got to think outside the box a little bit. I mean, heck, if it was easy, everybody would be doing it, and everybody would be good at it. And so, you know, you got to have a little bit of insanity to go out there and do the things they're doing, full speed, and just let it go, you know. That's my guess. I don't know. You can ask Mike Joseph that when you see him.
Larry, are we good to open the player interview room? We'll go ahead and let anyone leave who wants to get over to the players coach. If you'll stay up here for a minute, we'll see if there's any more questions after give everyone a few seconds to clear the room.
Easy enough.
Right,
How's it
we'll
going?
give one more call. Any more questions for Coach Dawson from the media? All right, Coach, good luck in the Discover Orange Bowl. Thank you.
Man, appreciate it, man. Have a good one.